Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to start the Sukkah daf Chavav. We are going to begin on Chavav Amud Aleph about 7 lines from the top. Rabbi, Hayachli drachim b'yom. A person is traveling during the day. Patur min Sukkah b'yom. During the time in which they're traveling, they do not have to be in a sukkah. However, at night they will have to be in a sukkah. Let's say they're traveling at night. For that matter, a person is traveling day and night, then they do not have to stop. However, which means even just during the day, you can just keep on going. That we find when it comes to these two great rabbis, when it came to going up for the Shabbos of the Regel, for the Shosh Regalim, they're going to visit the Reish Galusa. Habiganu Arkasta the Surah. They were sleeping, Arkasta, Rashi says, al Sfas Hanar, by the edge of the river, which clearly means they were not in a sukkah. Amri, they said, Anan Shlichim Mitzvah, Anan Upatir. Because we're engaged in a mitzvah, so therefore we are pater. Says Rashi, why is it if you're traveling during the day that you're pater from a sukkah? T'chsib a sukkah's teishvu. So we learn teishvu came to duru. What does that mean? Kain yeshivas beiso. Kashem, just like Shekol Hashana, all year. Einu nimna melechas b'derech b'schayra. You're not going to stop traveling if you have work to do. You don't have to hold yourself back, which is question 13. Should a person stop going to work on Sukkot if he knows that there's no Sukkah while he's traveling? And the answer is not a problem because of Teshuvah came to do it. Tanurba. Shomer ear b'yoim, someone who's a shomer ear, someone who is protecting the city like a policeman or a security guard for terminus sukkah b'yom, b'chayav b'layla, because they're off duty. Shomer ear b'layla for terminus sukkah b'layla b'chayav b'yom. And for that matter, shomer ear ben b'yom ben b'layla for terminus sukkah ben b'yom ben b'layla. If you have a 24-hour shift and you're watching day and night, so you're pater day and night. And then the Gemara says, shomer ginus pardesim. Let's say someone is watching gardens and vineyards, and Rashi says, Ein zozim misham. You're not supposed to leave from that place. So, Patur bin miyam bin l'layla, you're completely pater. You don't have to go to a sukkah. I will have the sukkah hasam l'yasmer. So let's just build a little sukkah right there and sit there. Gemara says, Abai orientation came to do. So what does that mean? So Rashi says again, Kederach shudar kol hashana l'beveisai. The same way you act in your house, that's how you have to make your dira on sukkahs. With your bed, you have all your different items. He's not going to bring all these items, it's to be too much difficulty. So it's not Teshuv to do. He's not really living in that sukkah as he would in his house. Rabbi Pertzik Kar Lagana. The problem is, and this is a mashal head that Rashi says, that if the Ganav will see that he's sitting in a certain sukkah, he's just going to go to the other side of the field and steal. So therefore he knows if he's hanging out in a sukkah, so he knows, okay, I won't steal in the area where he can see, but he's obviously not walking around. So my benayu, the commandator carry the piri. Let's say all you're doing is watching this small amount of fruit in a heap. So because it's constantly in front of you, you can guard it, so it's not an issue appears to the Korlagana. However, Teshuv came to do still applies to be pater for that reason. So Tanurba. When we said someone was sick, it's pater Sukkah, doesn't just mean someone who is life-threatening. Obviously, they're pater. If your eyes are hurting, you have a headache. One time, My eyes were bothering me. The hit the Rav Yossi Beribi, and Rav Yossi, who was a very chacham, he was very smart, his name was Rav Yossi Ben Chalafta. He allowed lishan ani u'mishamshi chutz sukkah. And I was able to not have to sleep in the sukkah. Rav Sharlo Rav Acha Bardala L'nigna Bekilta B'sukkah Mishum Beki. He said, you know what, you should stay in the sukkah, but you should go in a kila. As we saw in Yud Aleph, that in itself is an issue. It's an oil. And Rashi says it's just above more in any of the two Lashonos over there in Daf Yud Aleph. He says that it has a roof and it's 10 tefachim high, so therefore you would definitely say it's an oil. But nonetheless, it's okay. And Rashi says, Babi kiyul chutz the sukkah. It's kiyul like you're not even in the sukkah. So okay, fine, you want to stay in the sukkah in a kila, it's fine. Because again, you're chayla. Because of the bugs. All these different bugs which are bothering you. So again, if there's bees swarming in your sukkah, you don't have to stay in that sukkah. Fine. Weiter. Rava Sharli Rav Acha Bar Ada, he allowed Rav Ada Bar Ada L'nigna Bar Metasala to sleep outside the sukkah, Mishum Sircha Higargishta, because it had this very profound, strong odor, and because of the smell, it bothered him. Rebel Tamid, Yom Rebel Mitzar Patam in Sukkah. So you're Mitzar, you don't have to be in the sukkah. Only if you're sick. Choyla in Mitzar alone. Now if you're in Tsar is not sick. So Amri, so he said like this: Choyla, if you're mamish Choyla Shein Bo Sakana, then not only can you not be in the sukkah, who Mishamsha Baturin, even your servants are pater. Mitzar, who pater Mishamsha Loi. If you're in Tsar, so we say fine, you don't have to be in the sukkah, but your servants do. So a person is allowed to eat outside the sukkah. The question is, what is a temporary small amount of food? So Rabbi Yosef tarti plus bay, 2 or 3 eggs. Some people could eat the amount of 2 or 3 eggs, and that's considered to be a sudas keva by them. So how is that a rye? El Amr Bai says get them shot. Rather, it's kitatayim barbe rab ayalakala. It's like they eat before they go and enter into this particular class, and they would do this obviously quickly. Rashi says b'boiker kishahoychan a beis medrash v'dayik shemi yimshachu hashmois v'tayim molipim b'shaisa. They just put their food in their mouth, have a quick drink. So that's the chilas harai. Tanabah. You're allowed to eat a small like snacks out of the sukkah. However, even though it's interesting, people are makbid in the sukkah, sleeping. Only the chassidim, only the chashav yidin, or makbid in mitzvahs, they sleep in a sukkah. It's the opposite. We see beferish over here that we're lenient when it comes to eating, but when it comes to sleeping, no. Even a little nap has to be in the sukkah. So my time, why are we more strict by sleeping? So Ravashi, Vizer Shima Yirdim. When it comes to eating in a chilas harai, hopefully you have some self-control, you'll stop eating. However, when it comes to sleeping, say, I'm only going to take a small nap, I'll sleep for 2 minutes. And wake up an hour later. When it comes to tefillin, person, let's not forget, they wore tefillin all day, so you can sleep, a temporary sleep, but why don't we have that same concern like my sukkah? So Rav Yosef, when it comes to tefillin, you have a shimer to basically make sure you don't sleep too long. So the question is, why can't you do that by a sukkah? So your co-signer is going to need a co-signer himself. In other words, who's going to wake him up, right? Who's going to watch him? The reason why you can sleep a Shenas Arai with tefillin is if you put your head between your knees while you're wearing them, which is exceedingly uncomfortable. So you're not going to be able to sleep for more than a few seconds. Rabbi Omer ein kevel shina. He says a different shot. He says, interestingly enough, there is no such thing as kevel. It's not because of Shema Yirdam you may have a deep sleep. The reason why Shina Sarai is Aser, says Rashi, Lavi she'ein kevel shina, ve'ein b'chiluk, ve'ein kevel arai, le'ein sukkah. She'ein adam koveh atzmo shina, shepamim she'enu ela menam. Maybe you just take a tiny little nap. Ma'at. And that's enough. You feel refreshed. Zuhi shinasai. That's your sleep. The Gabi Tefillin, the time is Shema Yafiach Behen, V'lam Yishum Isser Shina, has an issue with having a guf naki, a clean body, a physically clean body. So it's a totally different reason when it comes to Tefillin. So Tani Chada Yashan Adam Tefillin Shinas Araya V'lo Shinas Keva. One place says you're only allowed to sleep a temporary sleep. Tanidach ben keva ben arai, the tanidach loy keva loy arai. So are you allowed to sleep at all, whatever, or sometimes in tefillin? So akasha. Ha did naked little biyade. If it's in your hands, so if you fall asleep for a second, you may drop them. Ha de manach b'reishi. If it's on your head, so between your knees is okay. Shinas arai. Ha de paris sudralai. You put a sheet over it, then you put your tefillin away. So obviously, then you can do a Shinas Keva. Fine. Question 14. Tani chadi yashan the tefillin Shinas Raya v'Shinas Keva v'tani idach lo keva lo Rai ma teretz l'stira zu. So as we just saw. Vayta. So v'kama Shinas Rai. What constitutes a temporary sleep? So the Gemara answers. Tani Rabbi Mercheskel k'nei hilach mea am. Enough the person can walk 100 amos. How long does it take to walk an am? An am is 2 feet. So walking a couple hundred feet is going to take you maybe a minute or two. Tani mihachi yasham tefillin, but I'll carry. The person is wearing tefillin, sleeping in tefillin, obviously sees carry, where he has a seminal emission. So now what does he do? So eiches b'ritzua. So she grabs hold onto the straps as we continue to Chavav Omid Beis. The Einu Oiches B'Katzitza, he doesn't actually hold on to the tefillin themselves. Divra Rabbi Yaakov. Okay. Chachamim Ormim Yasham Adam Tefillin Shinas Arai. You can just sleep a temporary sleeping. Avlo Shinas Keva. So the Kama Shinas Arai. And here, instead of 100 amos, what is temporary? It says K'nei Hilach Mea Amo. Okay, it says the same thing. Amar Rab. Also on the Lisham Biyoim Yers Mishinas Asos. Person's not allowed to sleep during the day more than the sleep of a horse. The Kamashinas Asos. Shisin Nashmi. 60 breaths. What's the problem with sleeping during the day? This is an unbelievable Rashi. Rashi says Mitnei Bittul Torah. Bittul Torah. Can you imagine how far we are that a person cannot sleep more than 60 breaths like a horse sleeps during the day because of Bittul Torah? Every second is precious. Omer Bayit. Shnasa de Mar Kid Rav. The sleeping of Mar was like Rav, the Rav Kid Rabbi, the Rabbi Kid David, and David Kid Succah. So we see that the greatest people had very short sleeping patterns. But the Succah she said Nashma. 60 breaths. Which again, whether it's literal, the point is that a person who just squanders their life by sleeping and wasting it that way, the greatest people, obviously you need physical sleep to be able to survive and to be able to be healthy, but you have to know how to know your body's necessary amount of sleep, and more than that is just not necessary. So Abaya took a nice long sleep for the amount of time one would go from these two places. How long is this lazy person going to be sleeping? When will you arise from your sleep? So again, this was like a Musar Haskell, that you should not just be squandering away your life by sleeping in a way. Tanubah. Hanichnas liyashim b'yoyim. Someone wants to go sleep during the day. If you want, you take off your tefillin. If you want, you put them back on. Once it's nighttime, once they're off, we don't put them back on. When it comes to Yoladim, which means people that are young, those individuals, Rashi says Bochrim, like teenagers, so they should take their tefillin off and not wear them because they're more ruggle to Tumah. As Rashi says, so they may see carry, so if that's the case, we'd rather them not wear tefillin. Must be that's the whole issue, right? So Rabbi, no, Bioladim, this is talking about young men, and their wives are there with them. They may be Isaac in Hergel Davar, which Rashi says, Havadi Aser lives Naisan, Linhag Behen Kalas Reish. You can't be Isaac in Kalas Reish with your wife with tefillin. Tanurban. Shachach v'shamash mitas b'tefillin. This is unbelievable. Again, they used to always wear tefillin. They did everything with tefillin. They even worked with tefillin. So let's say they forgot they were actually Isaac in Tashva Shemitah. They're having marital relations and they realize they're wearing tefillin. So in this case, you don't even grab them by the straps. First, you have to wash your hands, and then take them. Because your hands have the capacity to touch many things, and they're dirty. So therefore, because of that, we don't want you to touch the tefillin, even the ritzvos. Again, this is, as we saw it already before, about 30 blot ago, Yoma Ayin Tesmanal. So you had this great rabbi, Rabbi Yomi Zakkai, who wanted to taste the dish. Rabbi Gamliel Shnei Koislis, and he gave him 2 dates, which we had a dispute in Masechtas Yoma, if when it comes to the chiyuv of eating on Yom Kippur is a date with its pit. And over here it says 2 dates. But Deli Shalmayim, the Amr Helma Sukkah. He says, bring it up to the Sukkah. Shanasnul Sadak, Achel Pachs Bekabetza. He ate less than a Betza. Natul B'mapa, so he didn't have to do all the Natilas Yadayim, he held it in a kerchief. The Achel Chos Sukkah, he ate outside the Sukkah, Bo Berach Acharav, he didn't say a Bracha Achroina because the Pasuk says, V'achalta v'savata birachta. It has to be a chiyuv which has savia. It has to be at least the amount of kabetza. But less than a kabetza, no. However, the bracha before, certainly you do need, because it says in the 6th parak in brachos, that it's also a hadus min ol mazebel bracha. You don't get any benefit from this world unless you derive you say a bracha. So Masalista, this whole mission is a stira. First we said that you don't have to eat there, and then also it tells you should. So chaser machmatami. So it's an achilas arai. So technically you shouldn't have to eat in a sukkah. But if you want, you could, and no one's going to say you're a bal gaiva for doing so. Masanami, Rabbi Yochanan Zaki, Litem Satashil, Rabbi Gamliel Shnei Koisnos V'Dol Shalmayim. They give them just some water and a couple of dates as we continue the Chazan Manal. Yomer Helma Sukkah. Now, technically, they didn't have to eat in the sukkah, but it was to be machmir. So the chilus arai could be inside the sukkah. However, Kshnasnul Rav Tzaddik Achol Pachs Mekabetza, Nachal Map V'Achol Chotz Sukkah Will Berach Achara. So he said Rav Tzaddik was more lenient because it was less than a betza. What's the diak? Ha kibetza. If the amount is an egg worth, boy sukkah. Well, he would have gone to the sukkah. So he would have to Rabbi Yosef Abaye. Rabbi Yosef Abaye said trey plus baye, or the amount of time it takes for the person to go. He eats this before he goes to the shear, which is Rashi says that was a beitza. So the answer is Dilma Pachas Mekabeitza Netila Ubracha Boy, Ha Kabeitza Boy Netila Bracha. David's just telling you, in order to have to do Natil Shadayim and to say a bracha achrona, you need to have a beitza. Maybe when it comes to eating in a sukkah, really the shear is more than a beitza. So the fact that he took less than a beitza, the diak isn't, must be that at a beitza you do have to eat in a sukkah. No. Even at a beitza you don't have to eat in the sukkah, but a beitza will mechayev you in berachas hamazon and also in the Natil Shadayim. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at a couple of questions. TA 6. Madul chayvi shemer ganais upardesim lasei sukkah beganas pardesim. Why can't you make it there? So one was either Teshu came to Duru, or because of Ganab. And then the Gemara asks, my nafkamina bin atamim. So he said, if let's say all you're doing is guarding a small amount of food. Fine. TB8. Eza din nilma l'kul yalma midrasha the Teshu came to Duru. Be'eza davar nechu tanoim ketan mekayim bezeh came to Duru. I got this half right because it's pretty vague. B'mi nechu amaroi im potter mishum deloi havi came to Duru. So it says like this: Oisa Succah keva ubeis orai ketzad kelim noim mal masukah Maminian hasudos, etc. Okay, we're going to see this tomorrow. Adkan.